Greetings, YouTubians, and welcome back to Wayne Sharp World, where today we're going to be taking a look at a hot new one that I've been very excited to get my hands on. That is none other than the MKAD MKAD by Custom Knife Factory. Before I go any further, I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in today. If you like what you see, do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button and follow along. I will continue to bring you the content. Now, before we go any further, let's go into some specs on this knife. We have an overall length of 8.27 inches, a blade length of 3.54 inches, a blade thickness of 0.14 inches, that blade being M390 with a very, very nice thin flat grind. We have a finish that is kind of a stonewash, satiny finish. Kind of reminds me of the Spyderco Swayback, a very nice finish indeed. And we have a handle width of 0.96 inches. That was taken right here. The handle really varies on this one, but right here was where I got the 0.96 inches. We have a handle thickness of 0.45 inches. Handle material being titanium. We have a right hand only tip-up carry. The designer of this knife is Anton Malyshev. I hope I pronounced that last name right. Anton Malyshev. With a total weight of 3.5 ounces. This knife is light for its size. Very, very well done. And I'm going to show you why here in a bit. And we have a total price of $300. Now, before everyone flips their lid, $300 for a Custom Knife Factory knife is not bad at all. If you know anything about Custom Knife Factory, their knives usually go in the $500 to $700 range. A little quick background on the MKAD. I'm gonna call it MKAD, but it's actually just capital M, capital K, capital A, capital D. This is kind of like the Civivi to Wii that Custom Knife Factory has developed here. A more budget line that's still expensive, but budget compared to their regular line, their high-end line. A few little things that I saw on the website here regarding this brand. This is a brand where they're not running high margins. They simply want to make their mark on the knife community in a more affordable option. They say they want these knives to be in every knife collection. So for that, before I go any further in this review, I have to commend them for doing that. Custom Knife Factory, I think that's a great idea. I think it's going to be appreciated by a lot of people. $300 is still out of the range of a decent amount of people, but you open up a huge market. I think it's a very, very wise thing to do, and I'm somewhat impressed with this. I have some issues, I have some problems, but I also like a lot of things about this knife. We're going to cover all that in a second. One other quick thing on the MKAD. This is kind of where the MKAD came from. It is a ring road encircling the parts of the city of Moscow, the capital of Russia. For a long time, the MKAD served as the administrative boundary of Moscow City until the 1980s when Moscow started annexing territory outside the Beltway. So just kind of a little quick history on what the MKAD actually is. I kind of like that. They stuck with something that is part of their roots. So I appreciate that. I always like the stories behind things. Now, let's do some size comparisons. Let's do some size comparisons here. This is not a small knife by any means. Let's start off with a couple knives that are a little smaller. The Benchmade Bug Out, as well as the Benchmade 0940. Altogether, a little longer than both of these. Pretty obvious. As far as the handle width, though, the handle width and thickness, somewhat comparable to these two. This guy looks a little thicker because it has a rather big pocket clip on it. Have a lot to say about that here in a bit. But altogether, there's those two. And now, I don't know why I said altogether. That didn't make any sense. Sorry. It's been a long week. Let's take a look at some ZTs. We have the ZT0452, and we have probably my favorite ZT that I absolutely botched, the 0640. And can kind of, there's the handle here kind of reminds me of this between the MKAD and the 0452. I don't know why it does. It probably shouldn't, but it just kind of feels similar in hand. This is just a little longer down here on the ZT. But again, two more pretty good size comparisons. The thickness of the handles are also very similar between the 0640 and the 0452, really. So pretty good comparisons there as far as handle goes. Obviously, slightly different lengths. And let's take a look at some more budget options that I think a lot of you guys know. The Civivi Asticus, as well as my favorite Civivi, the Civivi Insight. There again, we have rather good size comparisons. The Asticus is, of course, longer, but again, kind of reminds me a little of the Insight. The handle on this guy's a little wider. And one more group here for you. We have the Quiet Carry Waypoint, and we have the Wee Snacks Mini Buster. And there you have it. Some pretty good size comparisons. And we're going to set the Mini Buster aside because this is going to make a very good comparison point here as I move on to talk about this guy right here. Now, let's get into the blade. First of all, I got to say, this blade is the reason I bought the knife. It has a lot of belly, but I love the unique blade shape, and usually a lot of belly is somewhat of a turnoff to me when it comes to blade design, blade shape, but this one has just enough belly to where it really does stand out to me, and I think it looks great. It doesn't have too big of a swoop. It comes down just enough to where you pretty much have nothing but belly on the entire knife, which I do kind of like, and it's just not too obnoxious. And I tell you what, this knife is a rather epic slicer. The grind on this comes down to, took multiple readings all along the edge, and it was anywhere between 13 to 14 thousandths behind the edge. This thing goes through paper like knife in a hot butter. I mean, it is absolutely a fantastic slicer. Custom Knife Factory did a fantastic job of grinding this blade. It's one of the few blades where I don't miss the hollow grind when it comes to sliciness. It absolutely, it's a phenomenal grind. So they did a very, very good job on that. I also really like the minimal blade branding. They didn't put too much there. All they have is this little design right here, which I'm starting to wonder if that maybe is the MKAD. The ring and circling, I'm willing to guess it is. I may be wrong, but my guess is that is the MKAD circling Moscow. But on the back here, you have the blade steel marking, and you have this number right here. And now this right here, I'm going to bring in the rest of what came with this knife, because another thing they did really good about this knife is making it somewhat of an experience buying it. You get a lot more than just the knife. So let's bring that in here, and we have the package, the padding that it comes in, which is a really nice pouch. Now I'm going to carefully open up this pouch because it came with all this stuff, which is really pretty cool. I'm going to give them maybe a little more credit than they even deserve for this because it's a lot of little things, but it adds up to, again, fulfilling that value of $300, which is a lot, regardless of what, you know, a $300 production knife is expensive for just about anybody, whether you have a lot of money or you don't. $300 is $300. So here's what else you get. You get some pretty sweet stickers from Russia with Knives. That's the actual website. If you guys want to try and look up some of these knives, I believe these are sold out right now. I don't know if more's coming back, but From Russia with Knives is the website you go to. So there's that, and you have a couple other pretty cool stickers here. CFK Russia, CFK, skulls, knives, really cool stuff. And then you have a magnet. Yeah, this is a magnet. So that's pretty neat. Magnets aren't something that's very common. Very cool there. You also get a little Velcro patch that you can iron on. Very nice. And you even get what I'm assuming is a piece of chocolate. I don't know if I probably won't eat this just because I'm weird like that. I don't, chocolate that came with a knife from a knife factory. I don't know, but it's cool. It's got their website. There's the website right there. Both websites. You have their email, you have their phone number, so there's all the information for Custom Knife Factory you guys need, and it's a pretty sweet way to get it along to the customer. And really cool here, this is where this number ties in. You have the certificate of authenticity. So for a $300 knife, you're getting a really nice credit card style certificate of authenticity, which I think is very cool. It is hand signed by, I'm assuming that is the designer, Anton Malyshev. And you have the blade steel M390 titanium handle, the hashtag to use if you post stuff on Instagram, and the serial number 124 of, looks like 1020. So very, very, very cool. That's a nice little thing, but wait, there's more. You have a nice little wiping cloth for the blade. And this is where it gets really, really nice. They give you extra hardware. They sent me a whole other pocket clip, which is from what I can see, the exact same pocket clip as this. But, you know, if you bend this, how many times have you guys walked a corner, at least me, because I'm clumsy, walk a corner and catch your pocket clip on the side of something and it bends your clip and you're screwed? Well, you have an extra clip, and you also have extra hardware. You have an extra pivot hardware, and I believe, yeah, an extra screw for down there. So they give you a complete whole set of hardware outside of the bearings. That's amazing. I've never seen that before with any other product. Maybe you guys have. If you have, tell me, but this is a first for me. So again, for $300, it is a lot, but I've never seen more come with a knife than what they're offering here. So I really, really like that. I got to give them a lot of props for that. This is unheard of for me, and all the rest of this stuff up here is still just a nice add-on. It's a nice add-on, and you know, it makes you feel like you're getting a little more bang for your buck, and you can tell they're really making an effort to make a big splash with this knife. I really appreciate that. Now that you have seen all that, let's get back to this knife. Let me wipe it off with my nice blade cloth here. And let's get back into it. Let's get back into the blade. Actually, that was all I had to say about the blade. That was the end of my notes there for that. But no, very slicey, nice shape, nice little swedge at the top too. Very minimal, but again, it's a nice little accent on the blade. But more than anything, what makes this blade absolutely amazing is the sliciness of it and the blade shape for me. It's a unique one. It's very attractive, and it's very, very, very nice. Going into the handle and ergos. The ergos are also really nice. The ergos feel very good in hand. No hot spots. The pocket clip is big, but I don't mind the size, and I don't mind, it goes into the pocket very nicely, and it looks very nice. I don't mind the pocket clip being this big on that. It looks good in the pocket. No issues there. I do have some real issues with this, but we're going to save that for just a second because I have some other nice things to say about this knife. I also love the minimal exposed screws. You have two screws on this knife. That's pretty awesome, considering a full titanium build. You have a hidden screw on the back here that comes in through the bottom, which is amazing. I love that detail on any knife. And again, it's just a very, very nice. The thickness is perfect, and it fits very, very well in your hand. I also really like the slight curve here at the bottom of the knife. If I hold it down here as much as I can, and I hold it straight, you can see the handle curves down. And what that does is when you hold it in your hand, it kind of puts the blade down a little in your hand. So you're really ready to work with this guy. This is not just pocket jewelry. I think this knife could be a real good workhorse, an excellent, excellent slicer. And it just feels really good in your hand, and the way it sits, it's ready to dig into something. So I really like that a lot. I also like the lanyard hole down here. You know, it's somewhat concealed, but it's actually part of the back spacer. But it's not like just a hole. It's not an annoying hole. It's at the bottom. And as you can see here, it has a lot of space. It looks rather minimal on the handle when you're just looking at it from a distance. But when you get up in there and look at it, there's a lot of room for paracord or any type of lanyard you want to stick in there. So you have a lot of options there. They do that. They make it very functional, very nice. It complements the knife, but it's not too loud and proud. So they did a very good job on that as well. The problem. Let's get to the problem, because the problem is this pocket clip, and it's a big problem, and it's not just the sound it's making. That was just that's one of my issues. So, but this is the big issue. This is the really, really big issue here. Like I said, it's not the size, it's not the looks, it slides into the pocket fine, but this is the big issue, and I'm going to bring back the Wee Snex Mini Buster for this, because as you can see, they have very similar flipper tabs. Now, the flipper tab on the Snex Mini Buster is amazing. It's super smooth. It's very, very easy to deploy this knife. Never have I missed a deployment on this knife. You just push down and it comes out, and there's no pressure from the lock bar, because this pocket clip here, try and get it focused right, may not be able to do that. Here, the pocket clip, as you can see, a good portion of the pocket clip is resting on the actual handle, while the other half sits over the lock bar. But as you deploy the knife out, or if you press down on the clip while you're deploying, that pressure is not applied to the lock bar, so it makes it very easy and very user-friendly to open this knife and enjoy the deployment experience. But when you get to, I'm going to set this off to the side here, when you get to this knife, the MKAD, you have a real big issue. Regardless of how it looks here, the shade is not, or the shadows of the clip isn't helping. But this knife, that might show it right there. This knife is not sitting on this handle part at all. It's pretty much all resting on the lock bar. And it's so frustrating because I want to love this knife, but it's sometimes. So now I figured out how to open this knife too. If you don't put your hand on the pocket clip at all, just a little over it, and you kind of pinch the sides up here, it pops out, and the action's good. When you can deploy the blade, the action is fantastic. But there's just been too many times second time it slipped, and what it does that really annoys me is it tears my index finger up. This is not an aggressive flipper tab. It's a nice minimal flipper tab that isn't obnoxious. It's not a pocket pecker, but I'm telling you what, it gets caught up because of the pressure on the lock bar from the pocket clip, and it's eating my index finger up, and it really sucks. Because it's literally probably 50-50, maybe 60-40 when it comes to successful deployment to just that. Sometimes another more reliable way is if you put your finger totally down. It kind of is a little hard for me because I don't have a whole lot of fingernails to work with. I'm a fingernail biter. Not very safe to do in this COVID era, but hey, I like to live dangerously. But God, that's its problem. That's the only problem with this knife because it's smooth enough. I just got this a couple days ago, so I haven't carried it a whole lot. I carried it yesterday. It carries fine. It carries great. It looks fantastic. I love this design, but this flipper tab is just really, really annoying. And this pocket clip, I like the pocket clip, but what really sucks is you can't move the clip back because it's set in place here. So it's a real problem. Especially for a $300 knife, it's a real huge problem. And as you look down here, see if I can get it. Let's see here. I know it looks like it is sitting on the frame, and I don't know if this is this could possibly be that when the blade's closed, it may press the lock bar up just a millimeter, a half of a millimeter, a tenth of a millimeter above the metal. Whatever it's doing, there is pressure being applied on this, and I am 99% sure it's from the clip. My guess, and this is just a guess, I don't know the actual answer, but I'm willing to bet there was some type of error in the placement of this pocket clip. We're talking real tight tolerances, real precision here in making this knife, and I think the pocket clip was just a hair off too much this way, and it's applying pressure to this lock bar. And if it's not the clip, which like I said, I am very, very, very confident it is, there's still a problem with the lock bar there, but I'm pretty sure it is. It's disappointing. I don't want to, because it's my only problem with this knife, but it's a big problem because it sucks when you go to pull out a knife and you go to use it and you're like, oh God. Especially someone like me who has a YouTube channel and all my friends and family know about it. What happens when I pull a knife out of my pocket and I can't deploy it because it's got too much pressure? It takes a second time and then it hurts my index finger. So I'm going to leave that alone for a second and go into the action. And the action in general is good. When you can deploy the blade, when there's not too much pressure, the action's good. It feels good. It sounds good. It closes rather well. I will be lubing this up and doing my own little, cleaning maintenance to it, and I think that'll make it even smoother. But even out of the box, it was nice and smooth. Blade centering is on point. Of course, there's no rock or centering issues or anything. It's extremely well built. The knife itself, the handle and the blade and the construction of the knife is fantastic, except for this pocket clip. And this happens too sometimes. The pocket clip is not totally pressing down on the frame, which is another reason that tells me that it is the pocket clip on the lock bar. Because if it was resting on the handle, it would not be making that click. But when I close it, it's not making that click. So that tells, sorry for the focusing issue, guys. That tells me it is resting solely on the lock bar. It's very, very close, and I think it was just a slight manufacturing error. But I gotta say, when you're selling $300 knives, you can't have those type of manufacturing errors. It's very disappointing, and it leaves a real bad taste in the customer's mouth when they get something like that. And I'm trying not to be super, super negative, but that's something you guys need to know before you go buying this knife, whether it be on the secondary market or whatever. Let me know if you have this knife, if you have that issue, but it's a pretty big issue. I find it to be a really big issue. So overall, my thoughts on this knife, I love the blade. I love the design. I really like a lot of things about this knife, but the pocket clip issue, it's a big one for me. It's not one that I can overlook. It's just not. I'm gonna look into see if there's any ways I can fix this, or maybe, I don't know, I may reach out to Custom Knife Factory. But as is, it's a knife that, you know, if you really love the looks of this and you're okay with the you know, sketchy deployment, and you just really like it, knock yourself out, because everything else about this knife screams fantastic quality. But, oh, crap. One other thing that I got to show you, because I've said enough negative things about this knife, I do want to show this. The milling inside this knife, look at that. The milling inside the titanium is crazy. It's all over the place. It's why this knife feels so incredibly light. For the 3.5 ounces it feels lighter than that, probably because it's such a big knife. The weight's balanced really well, and they did a fantastic job of milling out the inside handles. So I'm trying to show you guys the best and worst of this knife. I don't want to leave any stone unturned, and that's everything I have to say about it. But quality-wise, all over the board, it gets an A, except for that pocket clip. The pocket clip gets, I mean, it has to get an F, because it just gives me, or a D-, I don't know, but it really takes the enjoyment out of this knife, and that's really disappointing to me. If you guys have one of these, let me know. Do you have that issue? But I don't know if it's maybe just me, but very mixed thoughts on this knife. A lot of things I love, and one thing that just really kind of breaks it for me. That being this pocket clip placement. Not the pocket clip, but the pocket clip placement of it being too far onto the lock bar. So, on the bright side, I still like where Custom Knife Factory is going with this MKAD idea. I really do. I won't necessarily let this one experience turn me off from taking hard looks at new MKAD knives. MKAD knives. Sorry, I keep going back and forth. I don't know exactly what it is. I'm going to call it MKAD from now on. But, that's just where I'm at with this. This video is running a little long, but I just wanted to have my thoughts fully out there, that I love the idea, I love the overall quality, but they just can't have these kind of mistakes when they're still making $300 knives. Can't happen. But with that being said, those are my thoughts on this knife. Let me know what you guys think. Do you have one? Do you have that issue? Have you experienced any other Custom Knife Factories? I'm sure they're higher end stuff. I've heard nothing but fantastic things about it, and I'm still excited about this MKAD line. I'm looking forward to see what they come with down the road, because there's a very good chance I may be picking another one up later on, but may take a while. I gotta think a little more about this, because it is disappointing. But again, only with the pocket clip. Love the looks of the knife. I'm done rambling. That's my thoughts on this knife. Let me know what you guys think. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and until the next one, I'm out.